We're live on TV.
Trusting you with that.
Thanks for coming back in the middle of summer for this. Thanks to George for coming out on his birthday. We got some cookies and snacks over there, so please take a few with you and help celebrate that. Just to kind of give you a little update, and then Zach's going to kind of run through where we are looking ahead at your public information meeting. So I think we'll have a shorter meeting tonight, but just to kind of get you ready for the public information meeting, run through the process, how that's going to function. Zach put a nice write-up together, I'll let him run through that. We started talking about some of the categories in the comp plan currently, get you thinking about that, especially as people start offering their comments, opportunities, and how people can start giving feedback, how people can get information to us, and then laying out some of the future dates and schedules kind of as we're looking forward to kind of, ramping back up as we're moving into out of summer into fall, and kind of that push towards the end of the year, trying to get that to the town board. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over to Zach. He prepared a nice write-up for the group and can go through that rundown.
Hopefully there aren't any typos like my email last week, so far so good. Welcome back everybody. Thank you, Mark. So what I put together today was just kind of like I put the word protocol in there because it sounded fun and I used it, but it's kind of like a public information protocol sheet to give everyone an understanding of what the purpose of this meeting truly is. It's the first of several public meetings that we'll have for the comprehensive plan. It's the one that really is important for this committee though, because we're going to hear everything that the public has an opportunity to speak about at that time, to say, think about this as you consider the document. These are things I noticed in town that maybe I'd like to see different. You'll hear everything from the whole gamut of things, so be prepared for that. But that's what it's for you to hear them, to listen, and then take that into our future meetings, and we talk about it as a committee. So that's the purpose of it. I think we touched on this last time. Town staff will actually be running the meeting. Committee members, you'll be situated in the audience. We don't have reserved seats for you. We can if you want, but typically people disperse themselves in the audience and just sit and listen if you're a committee member. Mark, myself, anyone else who's lucky enough will be up front at the dais, and we'll give a brief intro to what is a comprehensive plan, what is the purpose of the meeting, and the structure of the meeting for the public and how the process will work. Typically everyone's capped at 5 minutes so that we don't have an entire testimony up there as people are offering their thoughts for the committee.
Or at least give everybody an opportunity to get up once and share their input. If somebody wants to come back up again, we try not to cut people off, but at least give everybody a chance to speak once before somebody takes up a half an hour of conversation. Zach will get into it. We also take things in writing, email, so there's more than this opportunity and avenue to provide input. Or
you guys have done this before. How many? What's your attendance?
Pretty packed for other information meetings we've had.
Pretty full. Usually we get quite a few people that come out for it. Depends on the topics and everything else. We've done information meetings for Shadow Pines. We've done information. Well attended. That has more motivation behind it. A comprehensive plan, maybe not as much, but I say even more important because we're looking at the vision for the next 10 years of the community. So we hope it's out there.
Which
we'll
is why
communication.
Other ways for people to give us their input. We're going to open up public input page. It's a form that we'll build for our webpage, just like we did for Shadow Pines. And both of those committees work. People will be able to leave us their information and all their comments in a non-restricted table, input form. And we'll collect all those through the website for a period of time before and after the meeting, typically 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. That way people have enough time to submit things if they can't get there, or perhaps they went and forgot to say something and they still have an opportunity to put it in writing back to the committee after the fact. If they can't figure that out, we say send them to planning@penfield.org. That's our department email. Send it there, we'll get it to the committee. They can also send it to us by mail if they don't have access to electronics. So we're trying to give everyone that opportunity. 4 different formats to submit your comments for this committee as part of this public information meeting.
And Zach, what's your process for getting the word out to residents about how
will it be promoted?
Sure. That will be done through the website. It'll be done through Tony's column. It'll also be done through Facebook and
Twitter and
potentially Twitter, but mainly Facebook is going to be our social platform for that. But it's going to be at the header of we have a banner on the web page, and we can incorporate it into the banner on the top page so it's present on every page you visit on the website. It'll be in our quick links on the website, which will direct people to the public comment section, just like we did for all of our previous committees. And it'll be reiterated through the supervisor's column as he feels necessary to put it in there. Typically, we do it at least in 2 columns before as it's coming up, so we remind the community of this is coming up at the town hall on September 24th, which probably should have started with that. It is scheduled for September 24th, a Tuesday at 7 p.m. here, and we'll continue to share that information with the public. It'll also be posted on our town clerk's board here at Town Hall for anyone who happens to come by and look at that, which a lot of people do, surprisingly.
And then, as you said, we leave it open for 2 weeks afterwards.
Yes.
So sometimes people didn't hear about the meeting, but hear about conversation afterwards, or see it on PCTV in a replay or something else and say, hey, I missed that, but, you know, I still have an opportunity to send something in.
Does it have to be advertised legally?
The meeting is an information meeting, no. We are going to advertise it to our standards throughout all the different formats that we have.
So we have a public hearing on the actual document, you know, that's
Yes.
when we do a legal notice for that. This is just to gather information for the committee from the public. So as Zach said, this is not the only opportunity for the public to speak, but it's a great opportunity for them to come and give you information as you're considering the document. The other opportunities are once the document's together and you're asking for input on the final
Feedback
document
on it.
or feedback on it. It's better, you know, if they can provide input up front and thoughts, concerns, so stuff for you guys to discuss and debate and talk about as we, you know, begin to formulate the document for the next.
I would also just encourage people to promote it on your own, you know, if you have a neighborhood email network or, you know, Penfield People in Places, any of that kind of stuff. If you participate in any of those boards or your own neighborhood's got a network, let your neighbors know, look, you know,
And
post
if
it
you
on
do
it, something like
that,
that.
be sure to use the links we provide
Right.
to direct them back to the website,
Yeah.
where that's kind of like our clearinghouse
Mhm.
for all those public comments and for anyone who has questions about how to use that information.
So I'd almost
point.
ask a favor of you guys, you have all of our emails.
Yes.
If you could just send us an email that said with the write-up exactly as you'd like it
Yep.
with the links, that would be
Oh, for
fantastic.
sure.
Yeah, because then we
We
can
will
just
definitely-
forward
You
it.
can-
Yeah.
Definitely.
Then I can
Your
get blast it out.
contact list and-
Of course, you guys, you might want to consider your neighborhood, because I'm thinking there's a couple folks from my neighborhood I might want to take off the routing, but yeah.
All residents count and all residents'
no, I-
voices will be heard. So.
No.
Roland, I saw your hand, I'm sorry.
Yeah, is any of the advertising you're gonna expose them to anything in the form of a, you know, informal directional survey,
Not at this time, no.
but later?
It's up to the committee if we want to do a survey to kind of gauge more of the public interest. I mean, that's going to come from you guys if you want to do that, and how to what the format of that survey would be.
I think a lot of times, more often than not, people don't know where to begin and what kind of questions
So-
to ask.
So what I would offer there is that when we write up the public comments page, we have a lead-in to that to say, what is the purpose of this? Why am I doing it? Where can I learn more about what I'm doing? So the first thing you're gonna see is the comp plan page, and you'll be able to go back to the 2010 comp plan. You'll be able to understand what the goal of this comp plan is, and then hopefully that triggers some memories to say, oh yeah, I'd like to share thoughts about that. And we're not restricting anyone to one time only. If you want to submit multiple comments, you can. It has been more of a self-educate thing in the past. If we look at the Shadow Pines groups, for example, and how people were responding to that, they took to that website form right away and submitted their comments. We had, I forgot how many.
But
A lot.
there was a lot of hype around that and a lot of interest, and I think the average resident may not get real excited about a comprehensive plan because they don't know what it means.
I think it might be different this time, actually.
I mean, I don't know, so.
Yeah. I think it might actually be different this time because of that topic
Right.
and people wanting to probably discuss that as part of our comp plan.
I mean, is there any budget, would you think about advertising in the Penfield papers, or, you know, just,
We
a lot of
can,
times you see, not in the legal notices, but just,
we've never, I don't
See,
know
we
the time
haven't
that we've done
in
that.
the past, but
doesn't mean you can't do it.
Well,
I'm just asking.
it's just not as cheap as one would think.
No, I know, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
I mean, it costs us $100 to put a a legal notice in basically this big for, you know, every planning board application.
We
needs to
can,
go
we
in the
can probably
Penfield
reach a
Post,
lot
so-
more people through the town's website these days, which we try to promote that as much as possible. And it's been successful for us in the past.
Sure.
You know,
we-
but they do carry meeting notices for free, you know, just of, like, they have a calendar
Yeah, I
in the
don't think
post.
you're paying them for it.
And that's for free, because I've had events put in for other groups there where it's just a day-by-day calendar and it
Mhm.
just lists the events, so that would be something I think we could easily.
You can do the same thing through our newsletter, Tom Warner does that for free.
Yep.
Right,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it doesn't cost anything to put together a press release, and Phyllis can send that out.
And I know Phyllis would work with us on getting
That, thank you,
that
Rob, that's a good
communication.
point. That's another thing that we usually do is a press release where she sends it out to all the media contacts
Right, So
too.
we can at least make an effort to do one or two of those with follow-up, you know, whether they actually, you know, report it is up to them, but, you know, we can
Yep.
certainly make that outreach.
Yep, thank you, Rob, that's a good reminder. Phyllis does that on a regular basis to send it out.
Is there currently, or has there been talk of establishing like a master town resident email list? So that whether it's,
I don't think that's a question for us. I think it's a
think
question
the-
for our website team.
I think the biggest collection of it is probably through the rec program. The rec program, anybody that enters the rec program has children, I think is probably the biggest list we have. I know we collect them through building permits and other stuff, so if you've come to the town and interacted with the town on certain basis, but we don't seek people's emails and we don't solicit for them. But obviously, if you submitted for a deck, a shed, or have your kid in rec or something, once we have them, we can collect them from there and send it out. But
it's something that people could opt into so that, you don't have to refresh the page 10 times a day or constantly, oh, let me check Facebook. No, I don't see, let me check the website.
You know, it could actually be something, I'm not speaking for our website team because this is really a question for them, but as they are in the process of rebuilding our website into a brand new whole website platform, starting from the ground up, that might be an option on the website to be like, yes, I'd like to be entered on your email distribution list about
So we can
news.
notify things like
Yes.
this as they
Yeah.
come up.
Yeah.
that thing's a
Push it
great
out
idea.
instead
Yep.
of requiring people to go
Yeah,
and.
but an opt-in though.
Yes, an opt-in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we have people that contact us and say, I want to be copied on every planning board agenda. We've got HOAs that want it, we send it off to them and copy them and send it out, so whether they are interested or not, it's up to them, they get it and they can look and see if.
At least you're
see what's
pushing it
going
out to
on.
them and
We're
sending
pushing
them
it out, but I say
send it
that may be a
out.
great option with the new website that people can submit their information and then, as a town, we can send out
Whenever we
email
are
blasts.
sending out
whatever.
mass things, sure.
All right. So just reach out to the website committee then?
We can do that.
Well, we have a
Oh,
web,
okay.
yeah, the whole department.
All right.
Any other questions on press-related matters? Hearing none, moving on. So we talked about the 5 minutes, talked about the public, the one thing I wanted to wrap up with the comments is that once we've collected everything in that 4-week time span of 2 weeks before the meeting, 2 weeks after, we will put everything we have into PDF format and they will be separated based on how they were delivered. So you'll have a set of comments that were delivered via email, a set of comments that were delivered through the website comment form. Anything that was mailed to us, we'll scan it, and then we actually will transcribe what was taking place at the public information meeting so that that's captured in writing as well for you. So every form of communication is captured and will be in its own unique PDF that you can read through, filter through, highlight, whatever you want to do, it'll be available to you.
And will we have a subsequent meeting to kind of dive into that a little bit and slice it up?
That was my next point. So at the bottom of this, I said, October 1, we'll meet again to talk about, now during October 1, we'll still have the website form for comments, that will still be open, but October 1 will give us the opportunity to kind of, let's gather our thoughts about what we heard and witnessed at the public information meeting. Then on the 15th, that's the Tuesday after the public comments would close on the webpage, and then we will process those and get those to you in advance of that meeting, so that you have those to review, hopefully over the weekend. If not, we can push that meeting out if we have to give you time to read that. But we will have all that in October as our chance to kind of like digest all of that, review it, and kind of see where we want to go with the public comments.
Zach,
Yes.
did you just say that someone will be more or less a scribe at the public information meeting and be taking comments down?
No, we will, as we record it, the audio will be transcribed.
No, that's what I meant,
Into
okay,
it,
yeah.
yes.
We'll-
Yeah,
We won't have a verbatim.
you won't have a recording secretary, but yeah.
For me, I mean, yes, it'll be audio and video recorded, so you can watch it live for yourself if you can't make the meeting.
Yeah.
You can watch it afterwards, but we'll have
It won't-
basic,
yeah, in the
you know,
past.
There'll be a
overview
summary
of
of
the
the
comment or
comments.
summary of the
Okay,
comments.
okay, that's what I was trying
We
to.
actually, in the past, we did have a
transcription.
a
done.
kind of a transcript of what was discussed that our
Mhm.
website team put together, or our PCTV guys put together.
Hmm.
Yes, Roland? I think that's a hand, right?
Yeah. So it sounds like it's kind of like, gonna be like open mic,
For 5 minutes.
for 5 minutes. And you've used this format before in the past?
Yeah.
Okay, and you found that all the essential topics
Yeah,
are pretty much addressed?
yeah, for the most part. And then like Mark,
Just like that?
for the most part, yeah.
Okay.
And then especially, and I think we'll see a lot more through the website, especially because it's been 10 years since we did this last. People know, you know, how to get there quicker, and people feel more comfortable submitting things in writing in the website if they can. They don't have to speak in front of the public.
But I'm just concerned that pretty much everything will, from your experience, will be covered by, so that not everybody's just talking about Shadow Pines.
Well,
or 10
that's-
or 12 people.
Well, there's a mechanism for that to say, you know, let's try not to piggyback too much on the same topic. There
There
are
is.
other things to talk about tonight. If
You don't-
someone has said what you said, you know, if you want to add on to it, that's fine. But in the effort of you know, saving time and not duplicating everyone's effort, if you have elected to speak and someone has said all your parts, just let us know and we'll move on to the
That's
next person.
Part of staff's job to kind of moderate the meeting and.
Yeah, okay. I was
That's why we're up
concerned
there and
about
you
that. I
guys
never
can sit in the back and your
participated
job
in-
is just to listen. You're not, you know, need to answer questions. You don't need to get into a debate or conversation. It's just information gathering. We're not at that point.
Quite honestly, that's why I brought up the question initially with the survey as to
Yeah.
whether or not so everything just doesn't all.
And that's some of us is to say,
Shadow
here's,
Pines and
we'll try to
nothing
cue it
else.
up and say, here's the topics that are in the comprehensive plan. You know, if you want to come up, please speak about, you know, any or all of them, you know, and then it'll be up to us to moderate it and say, okay, we've heard about Shadow Pines, we've got that. Anybody want to speak about rec programs? Anybody want to come up and speak about community involvement? Anybody want
Right.
to come up and speak about sustainability? So
Okay.
that's some,
I feel.
if everybody in the audience wants to
We
come and
have
speak
to-
about Shadow
we have to
Pines, they want to
moderate,
speak
like
about
you
Shadow
said.
Pines, unfortunately, we can't force them to do it differently, but hopefully at least we can kind of try to move the conversation along and try to
So you are gonna.
selectively say,
Feel a
hey,
little
what, anybody have
better
any
about things
input on these
that way, then.
topics? Anybody
Mhm.
have thoughts on this?
I mean, I have
Come
to
and
do it.
share.
I have to do it at a regular planning board public hearing every night to try and moderate those comments that come in. So
Yeah.
I
we're
mean,
pretty used to it.
we're not here to stifle people's comments, but at least to kind of, at least steer them along and keep the meeting going and.
It's more about giving everyone the opportunity to speak if they have something to say, and we're not keeping you here till 10 o'clock at night. That's the most
Oh,
important
speaking
thing.
about the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, planning board, it's the application at hand, but here it's.
Oh, don't worry, we've seen
an
people
entire
stray
gamut
off.
of- No, I'm just saying, because there is a whole gamut of issues at hand, and it just,
Well, and that's part of the education process leading up to it and how we present this meeting to the public about what it is and what the topic of conversation is. It's not just the comp plan, but Mark said, it's like there's topics in the plan that everyone should be aware of.
Mhm.
That is the community vision. And we want you to be there to speak about the community vision. How have you seen it been implemented over the past 10 years? What do you want to see in the next 10 years? So we kind of put the onus on those that come to participate and say, have you done your homework?
Mhm.
You know, and have you done the reading? And if you need more time, you have 2 more weeks to put stuff in writing.
So the kind of the high level table of contents that list each section, if that, I think it was a recommendation, if that could be included in the communications.
It will be.
You know,
It will be.
to include the email that we
Here's-
send out that says, here's the
Here's
areas
the
of
current
conversation.
categories that are in the comp plan.
That's
or
I'm not saying,
topics.
Roland, that it's going to necessarily steer them away from a line of
No, no,
Shadow
no.
Pines, but at least get them thinking that
As
there's.
you said,
but to
give
be
people
aware
ideas.
that there's more than one issue out there.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
more to Penfield than just that.
And more than, yeah.
And I would recommend frankly that we take that, you know, that section, so community profile, basically the table of contents.
Mhm.
And if we could keep it on a separate screen up the entire time.
Yeah, I have a couple visuals planned.
Yeah, something like that, but where this is constantly visible to people,
Here's what
either that
we're
or
looking
big
at,
giant
and here's
posters.
the,
Something we'd like to do is have both our zoning map up,
Okay.
as well as something like that to
Yeah.
say, these are just visual cues for someone to see, like, this is what we're talking about tonight.
Right. And are we going to do the format that I've seen at other public meetings where you sign in when you come in
Yep,
if you
we
want to speak?
try
So
to,
there
at least
isn't
to-
order to it, Roland. I mean, it's not just kind of random people
We
popping up.
will do that at first and go through whoever signs,
Yeah.
it's like, if you intend to speak, please sign up, list your
Yeah.
name and address. And then, if there's anyone we missed or didn't get a chance to sign up, or if I can't pronounce your name right,
Yeah.
let's try it again. It does help us give that order too.
But it is less chaotic, don't worry.
I'm all about order.
Well, and I think that you made a good point earlier, Zach, that, we're talking about, where technology is versus where it was 10 years ago. I mean, I'm hoping that people are going to become a bit more prepared because the information is more readily available.
I hope so too. And I hope they reach out sooner too, because that content's out there, you know? And we're very accessible upstairs in the planning department. If you need something, let us know. And then just to wrap up kind of most of what I think I've said so far, and Mark alluded to it earlier, just kind of, not a forewarning for you guys, but just kind of like something to keep in the back of your mind. As you go through the meeting that night, kind of be cognizant that, you're a committee member, you're there to hear what they have to say, but try not to dive into too many conversations about your personal thoughts at that moment. These are comments that we want everyone on this committee to hear. So if someone's really trying to say, oh, I had this great thought, I had this, or what about this, or what about that, it's like, you know what? I hear what you're saying, all great topics. Go to the website, put it in, because we want the whole committee to see that. And that's just something to keep in the back of your mind as you're going through, because we've seen it before. It's happened to us as staff members. People try to corner you, and a couple of people try to corner you and try to, get you on the spot there and ask you something. We don't want anyone to be in that position. So,
Will we be identified? Will people know who we are?
no.
I mean, we're not going to point you out and go,
No.
hey, look over there, there's Michael. You got to wear a vest. And
Yeah.
No.
but I mean, if people just know that you're on the committee, and somebody, I mean, no one's going to be aggressive, but people just say,
If
hey,
they
I want to
watch
talk to
one
you.
of the tapes,
What do you
they
think
know who
about
we
this?
are.
And
Yeah.
really need to get on board
Right.
with this. All great suggestions, but again, it's not a single person decision. It's not a single spot decision. It should, be discussed as the whole group. So yeah, great, submit your comment. It's wonderful. We'll bring it back to the group, but the whole committee should discuss it, not yeah, that's my opinion and I agree with it. It should be, obviously, it's this entire group that needs
It's
that
not going to be
conversation.
about us that night.
And that's why I say, we're up there, so the focus will be on us. They'll point their comments to us, they'll, ask, we'll try to ask more questions if we need to get stuff out of people, we'll try to facilitate and take it so you guys can sit and listen, have the list, and we'll prepare same thing, the sheet up above with the categories, we'll prepare your sheet with the list right there, so you're looking as well and go, okay, Mrs. Jones, her comment, that may make sense under this category here, or that may fit into this, or, so you can kind of take notes on your own, listen, and you got it, obviously we'll compile the comments we get in and the feedback, but just as you're sitting there listening, you can kind of see where things may make sense, or, hey, that may filter into a new category we want to add, or that may make sense with this, so you kind of, just sit back, absorb what they're saying, and, the focus is off you guys of having to respond, and, well, what does the committee think, and what, what's your answer to this, and how, that's not the intent of the night. The intent of the night is to gather information from the public. We may ask clarifying questions, try to facilitate it, but it's not a discussion, it's not a debate, it's not a, we may have to educate some people. People come in and say, well, I want to see no further development in Penfield, and nothing should happen ever. We've had this conversation many times. Every property zoned something. When this committee looks at rezoning things, but people have a right to do things with their property, and that's some of the stuff that we may have to do some education that people are unaware of zoning and unaware of how some of that stuff works. So we'll try to minimize that. The intent is to gather information, not be an education session, but that may be part of what we need to do as well, is just to kind of steer people along and collect their information on that.
That was the last point I was going to have, was just how you guys approach the meeting and take notes throughout it. Just as we said before, you see our table of contents, you know what's there, you know what we expect to hear. but at the same time, like Mark's been saying, very consistently throughout this entire process, whatever new things you think of that could be great topics for our next plan, this is the time to, you hear something, ooh, that might add on to like our sustainability thing that Mark's been talking about, or connectivity, or any other topic we're thinking about including in the plan. Keep that in mind as you're taking notes throughout the time. It applies to what's in there already, but it could apply to something bigger too. The one thing I wanted to ask too, since I kind of touched on it earlier, just in terms of meeting dates, if we're not able, I don't want to put anyone in a spot where we give you like 24 hours to read a bunch of comments after that the writing portion is completed 2 weeks after the meeting. So what I just quickly thought of is, and if you guys can check tonight, your availability on October 22nd, the Tuesday following the 15th, just in case we need a little more time to, one, prepare the comments after they close, but also to give you enough time to really read through them, digest them, rather than rush through it.
Okay.
Looks good.
Okay, good to hear. Good to hear.
So,
Yep, good for me.
We'll have both reserved.
I say we'll pencil that night out or coordinate with PCTV, so at least it gives us a little more flexibility. There's
Yeah.
comments maybe coming in fast and furious at the end, and we're trying to compile them and get them out to you guys and give you guys ample time to absorb and be ready to
I'm all for
discuss.
pulling it all-nighters right before the meeting, so.
You got the coffee and you're ready to...
Get your cookies too.
If
Save
your
the
hand is
cookies.
shaking a lot, we know.
They just head over and get some of that nitro cold brew from Starbucks. That'll pretty much, I learned that the hard way, no more of that.
Yeah, you'll be late till Christmas.
High content there. That kind of wraps up what I have. Do you guys have any other questions about what to expect at the public information meeting? I think the biggest point is, like Mark said too, this isn't the only time the public will have a chance to talk about this. We have public hearings that are coming up. It's part of our secret process. We're required to have them as the document becomes available, as it evolves to its draft form and goes throughout that process. So there's going to be more feedback, more opportunities from the public, but this one's important, just as important as the rest of them. But it's not just a one and done show for the public. So that's I think something good to have in the back of our minds as well.
Are the subsequent meetings a bit more structured or focused on particular areas of the plan?
We'll probably go back and take it section by section, so we've got comments, and, I think that's, it's up to you guys, but I would envision, let's go back to community character. We've talked about it, let's work on that section tonight. We've gotten comments from the public, let's work on that section, and then kind of, to me, work methodically through that, so at least you kind of, your brain's not all here, and say, okay, tonight is this, maybe 2 topics, or 1 topic, or whatever, and just say, okay, tonight we're going to focus on this. Here's the comments we believe that kind of tied into those, and then kind of work through that
And you give it to us at
category.
a high level, and the details you want, and we'll have to transcribe those into written content that you guys want to see as part of that document too.
So we'll kind of help with the writing of it and say, talk through the topics, we like this, we have this, and then we can work between meetings to kind of flesh more of that out and just come back, is this what you thought, and then work on the next.
I think I plan to have like a working document as a draft form for us to see as a shareable document
Out on the website, on that site we have.
through our Google Docs. And I'd like to have something there where we can work between meetings. And you can have your own for your own thing, but I just want to have a document that kind of exists as a result of our meetings to
Yeah.
say, here's what it was, here's what we're proposing it to be. Everyone had a chance to read it, great. We'll accept those changes and keep going, or something to that nature, but I'm just...
Google
it's a
Docs
real
lets you
loose-
do version control. I would almost recommend each
Yep.
subsequent meeting, we bring in a cut new version, and I
Version,
like
yeah.
keep an old copy.
Oh,
with
every
the
time,
references,
every
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Big Save As fan right here.
Okay.
And it shows the evolution of what
Right.
happened and how it evolved and how we got through it,
Yep.
but that was kind of our thought, was the methodical method. So tonight you're not talking about 6 different categories and I missed one in here. And this is our meeting for tonight, here's our focus, and then move to the next one, and then add sections if we want, or delete sections if we don't need them, but
Just trying to avoid the 3-ring circus approach to the comp plan.
yep.
Okay.
And if we discover in the process that we still need let's just say some expert advice on something, presumably we can still reach out
Of
to
course. Oh, yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my biggest area of, I don't know if I'd say confusion or it's just kind of just like wrapping my head around things related to zoning and how zoning integrates with some of our other
Sure.
topics. And
Okay.
you just
Yeah,
sort
we
of,
can revisit areas and we can talk
Yeah.
about
That's
Yeah.
definitely the
process
opportunity
and
to
stuff
jump
like
into
that, but just I think once we get the public comments, that'll start to work through and then go,
Sure.
hey, let's put a pin in that and,
yep,
you know, either we can talk about it more or bring in somebody if we need additional help on it or however you want to do it. So we've got opportunities throughout to, you know, continue to educate, learn. and-
Along those lines, we did one, we'll call it road trip, but you had indicated there was a list of some other properties that would
And
be
I'm-
similar.
And I'm
Can you-
guessing we're gonna get more at the public information meeting from people saying, hey, then maybe people come into the meeting and say, I'm interested in you having my property rezoned, and I'm expecting a lot of that to come out of this, so I would expect other road trips through the falls to go back out
Perfect,
and
yeah,
say,
oh, yeah, the reason I asked that is that you had indicated there were some additional properties we just didn't get to, so
Yeah.
if you could send those out, so, because I don't know about everybody else, but I like to go out, take a few minutes, take a look, kind of, you know.
yeah, we'll keep a running list of that, and I'm expecting a lot of that, you know, may come out of the
I
public
think the ones
information
we
meeting.
didn't touch on, just to quickly elaborate on it, was ones that it was more of a staff recommendation and almost like a formality to kind of like, we just need to, this zoning should be updated to reflect its current like built out environment that's over there.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll definitely send those along too. And then I want to just add on to what you said is we plan to reach out to the sites that we visited, of both the property owners that reached out to us and the ones that we highlighted specifically for you, to make sure that they're aware of the public information meeting so that they can
Perfect.
be there or at least tune into it, or watch it after the fact so they're aware that this is being discussed and how the community is feeling about, maybe it's the same area they're talking about and they share a common interest or something.
Or they don't really actually, yeah, they can express either
Yeah.
agreement or disagreement,
Right.
yeah, in that forum, yep, okay.
And then following that down the road, we definitely want to at least have them in front of you guys here in this setting if they're available, just to hear a conversation, how you feel about those properties. So, sorry as we take notes, catching up on all of that.
So as you can see, we got a busy fall coming up. I mean, everybody enjoyed their lull of summer. We tried to give you a little time off of that, and I figured the public information meeting will be a good kickoff to the next phase of this, and then diving back in, and now's when we kind of really get into debate and discussion, and you know, we can circle back to education and the different parts, but it'll be exciting, and we got a lot coming up. Any
Covered
other-
everything I had.
Yeah, any other questions, concerns?
You guys, we're gonna go over item 1, status of project review status, or is that our status?
The status of kind of where we're at right now, kind of where, just the status of kind of what we've done, where we've come, how we're gonna move forward. That was just kind of the overview of what we've done so far, and we can go back to that if you need any recap. It was more just kind of.
I thought it might have been referenced, I know some of the other meetings you've gone over the status of some of the development projects.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, it was more of just kind of where we are, and, you know, it's been a while since we've had a meeting. We kind of just wanted to do this as a, you know, a preemptive discussion to the public information meeting, just make sure everybody's on the same page, everybody understands what and how it's gonna run, you know, any issues, concerns, just make sure we're,
We have been busy with projects upstairs.
Yeah, can we ask a question?
of course.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
I'm just curious about where we stand on the Morgan.
Morgan has been quiet. We have not heard anything on that application.
Okay, they did take title to some of the land, didn't they?
Yep. I think it's under Ralph DiTucci. I don't know if it's under Bob Morgan. Bob Morgan was the financial backer, as we understood it.
Yeah.
But Ralph DiTucci was the kind of the lead on that project. But that's
So
been
there's no
quiet as
changes,
of.
no changes on that.
Haven't seen any updates. Haven't seen any new plans come in. So that's been quiet as of late.
I just had a couple other questions.
Sure.
Now that Amy Tate's trying to sell the quarry down there. for
Yep, $10 million.
They never got rezoned as part of the mixed use stuff. but
It did not.
In theory, is that
It's
something that
zoned-
we're gonna address?
It's something we
Is it
should,
part of the plan?
something we
Is that
should
Yeah,
talk about.
We should put that on the, yeah.
It's zoned R120, so that's basically half-acre, single-family residential is what it's zoned today.
But one of the things I read was they were considering developing it in a parcel, so.
And, you know, I mean, right now it is still 5 parcels. She never consolidated it. At one point, she had a plat map to consolidate it all into one parcel. It still is 5 parcels today, different pieces here and there. Could be developed as single-family residential under current zoning, but that is something, you know, we should look at or discuss as we get into this, of talking about the different properties and different areas of town. But it wasn't one area, if we started talking about mixed use way back when,
But she didn't want it.
she bought it and said, I'm not interested in that.
But I will say the 2010 comp plan reflects that as a mixed use.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I say,
Recommendations,
that's,
So the
that's something we
the
should.
Precedent is already there and the legwork has already been done.
Yep, and it went through the discussions with the mixed-use committee, went all through it. It just came to the end and they said, you know, she's requested, she bought all of it, requested it not to be rezoned. You know, so the board,
Well, you'd think that
Respective
if she's,
wishes.
now that she's trying to sell it, I would assume potential buyers would love to have the option of having it mixed use.
Opens the doors for a lot of things.
If you have an
Depends.
extra 10 million,
depends who the buyer is and obviously
Yeah.
what their.
if you got an extra 10 million,
She's been very, very good about communicating to us through this process that the property went up for sale. So, you know, she's looking at all different options right now, her family, and you know, we're here for assistance if anyone has questions about what is the current zoning of the property. You know, what was the mixed use history on it in terms of how the town approached it as a recommendation to be rezoned to mixed use, what the mixed use committee went through to review the property. But so far it's been pretty quiet. I think she's just kind of taking their own private meetings with any interested parties, and we'll see how it goes.
and the last question I had was on the golf courses. We never rezoned Shadow Lake, right? Or
Oh, you would have read about that in the paper quite a few times.
Penfield
Yeah.
Country Club?
Nothing's been rezoned. They're all zoned residential.
R120.
But is that gonna be discussed as part of our?
Something open for this committee to talk
Yes.
about.
It was one of the things we talked about,
Yeah,
including in the plan, recommendations for the, yeah.
different categories or something.
That whole tax thing appears to have died.
Yeah.
But with Odenbach
Oh, yeah.
suing the town now,
Yep.
you know, he may have in the back of his mind that he wants to develop that, so.
Yeah, we discussed that on 3/19, that we wanted to include that in the plan.
Yeah, so,
I mean, those are some of the larger parcels that we should talk about. I mean, we've looked at some of the smaller parcels requests for
Yeah.
rezoning. Those are some of the bigger tracts of land that, you know, we should talk about and see what they are zoned, what you think they should be zoned. Obviously, there's gonna be different opinions on all sides, but that's all open for discussion.
speaking of large parcels of land, somebody stopped me at the gym the other day and said, so when was the open space inventory last done? It's like,
Last update was 2012, I believe.
2012.
How often are those done?
Typically every 10 years. So we did a more.
It's unique to us. I mean, we started in 2000, we did one in 2006, and then we started one in 12.
I don't know if 12 kind of merged into
Mixed use,
mixed use.
12
So I
other
don't-
things.
So I think 12, we kind of did an informal review. We exhausted the funds that we had, so kind of the impetus to continue on with it. Originally, it was in place to, when the acquisition of land, it was like 2002, was the public vote to go out for a
$10
bond to the $10
million,
million. So there was a big impetus to look at open space and buy open space, acquire development rights. We
Or
updated-
outright purchase property. we
for
did
outright
both.
purchase, and I think we did some additional money in 2008, so we did that. So 12, we looked at some properties, but I say the money that was set aside out of the 12 million has all been spent. We're still working on paying the bond back, so there wasn't as much, say, pressure to, you know, finish it in 2012.
The update
or
was,
do an
like Mark
update.
said, the update was really to say like, all right, what do we have left?
Mhm.
You know, have we used it? Where should we spend it? And then we ended up, you know, spending the money that was acquired for it, and you know, kind of look at it as a successful project that has been completed.
Yeah, so
And
it's
then
not
it's kind of just everything is
a
now
requirement of
everything's in cruise control right now. in
speed or
terms of
anything
that.
else. It was something the community wanted to do as part of, you know, either land acquisition or, you know, purchase the development rights. But, you know, if the community wants to buy land again, we just bought Shadow Pines. So obviously we've got another large bond out there, of debt and money to pay back. So you've got a balanced debt of what you're buying versus, what's out for the public. So it's something obviously the town board looks at is, balancing costs and tax structure versus acquisitions and everything else.
How do the recommendations come in for what to buy? Like, I know with Shadow Pines, obviously, it was driven by, I know what drove Shadow Pines
Yeah, I mean,
very
again,
well,
it
but-
was similar to requests for rezoning. A lot of people came in with requests to, hey, would you like to buy my property?
We
Would
plan
you
to
like
keep
to
farming it.
buy the
basically.
development rights of it? Some we looked at as, areas that, we wanted to preserve.
Right.
So it's kind of a combination of the two, and then we had, or there's criteria looking at, what's the surrounding area, what's the potential for development, what's
Plus, you
the...
had, I think, 10 or 12 committee members, I think, helping with that process too.
Oh, it was a committee-driven program, but there was categories, and then we went out and ranked them as, looking at what's the development pressure. Far East Penfield, if there's no sewers, there's no other development nearby, is there really a drive for development? What's the development pressure? So that may score a little lower versus Shadow Pines being in the middle of other urbanized areas that has sewers and water and other stuff. Is there a higher demand for that? So the committee went through and ranked all the things and said, well, this is the number one ranked parcel for acquisition, whatever, and then it was a matter of negotiations with the property owners. Some property owners didn't want to sell, didn't want to, either sell the development rights, sell the property outright. So whether that was the number one property or not, obviously the, the individual property owner has the right to refuse acquisition and say, no, it's my land and I don't
I
want to be any
think,
part of it.
someone you should definitely ask is Heidi about it. Her family went through the entire process. She kind of spoke to it at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago.
Yeah,
about
she's looking at the
pros
other
and
end
cons
of it.
of that process, of what it did for her family in the short term and the long term.
She's got some very strict restrictions on
They all
what
do.
can be done with her property and what can happen with the property, and that carries through forever. So, there's pluses and minuses on both sides, and the money, family got some money and some cash and
Land was
preserve some
preserved.
land, but now she's looking at how do I even just pay the taxes on the property without, how do I do something with it? And,
Yeah.
just trying to cover paying the taxes on the land if you're not,
Or who's going to keep farming all the
or who's
preserved
going to
land?
keep, or who's going to farm it. So there's pluses
Well, I'm
and
just thinking in
minuses.
the context of the future land use
Yeah.
as one of the categories of the comp plan, that's something we ought to be.
I think that's
Thank
one
you.
element of it.
Yeah.
The other part of it is that rezoning, some of this rezoning stuff we're
Right.
talking about too, for either something to more density or to less density or whatever it may be. I think that plays a big role in the future land use to see how, it's like, you ask yourself, how do we see land developing in Penfield? And how do we foresee that taking place? And where do we want to kind of say, yeah, we could see this developing this way in the future, or we see this area being, less developed or something like that. So you
That's some of the
kinda-
stuff, we'll pull up the
Yeah.
sewer maps and look at that. I think sewers are gonna drive a lot of that. We've looked at that before, is East Penfield, kind of east of 250, unless you're in the southern area, really doesn't have sanitary sewers. And we're getting to the end of the lines of what's gravity, how much capacity we have. So that's gonna be some of the, say, natural restriction, but just on development.
A built restriction.
A built restriction.
Well, we talked about the, when, at the same rate that Heidi brought up the challenges she was having, we talked about the fact that we might want to consider from a review and a recommendation that some of those land use agreements be re-examined and taken a look at. So that's, I think you're right, I think we should definitely look at those, because in some cases, they made sense 10 years ago or 15 or 20 years ago when they were done, they may no longer make sense, and is that an option that we could, as a board, recommend that those get reviewed or taken a look at? Because money changed hands, so I don't know what our options are, but we did talk about it, yeah.
You gotta
Right.
look at the legal agreements and how that all went. Some of it,
Is there a way for us to have somebody from a legal perspective talk to us if that's even an option?
we
We
can,
can start
we can
as
talk to the
staff.
town attorney who was involved in a lot of those negotiations to,
Yeah, I mean, because if Heidi is talking about it, she can't be the only one that's
She's
in
not.
that position, so.
She's not.
Okay.
That's a very good point, though, and I'm glad you went back to it. It's something we can follow up with our attorneys about that to see, like, are we hitting a roadblock here, or is there something we
Well,
don't
yeah,
know?
because reasonably, if the answer is no, they're in place and they're going to be in place and there's not a
Exactly.
damn thing you can do about it, then we can say,
Exactly.
okay, we did take a look at it, but if there's some
Mhm.
options, yeah. I mean,
Reasonable modification,
Yeah,
yeah.
reasonable, yeah, I love that, reasonable modification.
Well, would we get some of our money back then? I mean, it was kind of a,
You're
deal you
asking,
made, right?
And then maybe
that might be part of the agreement to an amendment of one of those easements. is
Exactly.
that-
if the
all right,
community paid for the development rights to a property, then obviously that came from taxpayer dollars. That-
Touchy subject.
Oh, for sure, I mean, I know
If
it
you're
could,
modifying that agreement, how does that?
it could be the proverbial, Pandora's box, but it could be something as simple as modifying the agreement to allow one or two additional uses that would put her in a position to not break
to
the
sell,
agreement, not to,
right.
but to be able
And there
to.
there is some verbiage in them that allows agricultural uses, allows other stuff, so there's not a prohibition against anything. And this is some of the stuff we went through with Oak and Apple and everything else that got into
What is a
interpretation, or
farmstead?
what is it? Well, some people understood purchase development rights means you can develop or do nothing on the property. A lot of them, and I don't speak to every easement, a lot of them allow for agricultural uses on them. The whole purpose was to keep them agricultural, not to prohibit anything. It's not, we didn't buy the property. If we bought the property, then yes, nothing happened. We bought the development rights, so we're intending for them not to be developed as homes, not to be developed as, large commercial operations, but the intent was to keep them agricultural, so you can put up barns, you can put up agricultural events, Wickham's and the gutter that, we go back down that road of, agritainment and other things, but other uses that are agricultural based was the intent of purchasing the
Supporting
development rights,
agriculture.
not a prohibition against anything in the future. So there is
Yep.
language in there that allows that, and it allocates a farmstead area, and it allocates what's the farm area and what can be done in each zone.
But it is very specific to
But,
it.
and I'm not a lawyer, so I will probably end my
Yeah, that's
conversation.
why I'm asking.
Stay out of it. So.
Yeah.
That's inside Mark's head right now.
I'll point over here. My counsel said, stop talking. Stop talking and let it go.
I mean, all we can do is maybe recommend to open up that door, and then it's up to the two parties, namely the town and that individual.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to participate in the negotiations.
No, and that's the only role that we
Yeah.
can actually take.
Yeah, through the document,
In a
that might
case
be
like
those
that.
few sentences right there. That might be what you.
Yeah, but I
discuss.
don't even want to insert those sentences, quite
Correct.
honestly. If the attorney says not no, but hell no, then we don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
touch
That's an
it,
easy
right?
conversation to
that's
have.
why we
and
want
just
to
say-
set
That has to be determined and found out first, but ultimately, it's
that's our
not
goal.
going to be up to us to do anything more than
Yep,
recommend.
agreed. Because, I mean, that's our primary role, is to make the recommendations. We're not going to do any of it.
Yeah, we're not just gonna put words
we're
there,
not.
put words
Yeah,
in there.
let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Great discussion, great conversation.
Anything else you guys want to throw at us? Come on, we're ready.
Oh, now you're challenging them.
No.
Yeah, no.
Not even short, yeah.
Let's say we promised a shorter meeting. George can go home. George can go home and finish celebrating his birthday. Please take cookies with you. Zach.
Yeah, guys, those folks with kids, please take home the cookies.
Yeah, Zach can't eat them all.
Yeah.
He'll try, but
I can probably eat
Wanna
like
chill.
10, that's about it. Before going into some
No,
form of shock.
I went to Baker Street Bakery and I have
Oh, no.
eclairs in the refrigerator, so.
oh, okay. You got something even better.
It's better than cake
Nice.
sometimes.
Okay,
job.
well,
All right.
thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Enjoy the rest of your summer. You'll be hearing a lot from us shortly. And
Ludwig?
Yes, it's my grandfather.